Well, it's great to be able to speak to you all today. And what I'm here today to talk about is agentic AI. Many of you have come up to me in the stands today saying, "What is agentic AI?" I'd like to put this into some context in terms of some background. So I'm a former president and CEO for SAP for both North America and Asia Pacific Japan. And I left SAP 9 years ago to build what we call human-centered technology. If you think about all of the systems of record that we have in our companies today, we have menu-driven interfaces where we have to point and click, and human beings are spending their entire lives every day, and I'll show you some examples of this, clicking through many, many screens to create work. What would happen if we created an interface that you were able to type into or talk to that would actually perform the work for you? This is what agentic AI systems are. They're systems that are actually showing up in your organization on any system of record as agentic AI co-workers. But what we are finding now with our partners and our customers is that we are now improving productivity inside the workplace by an average of 70% every single day, where we're just removing work which frees these people up to do the things that they're really good at doing. And it completely transforms the nature of work. Human-centered technology transforming the nature of work. If we look at the evolution of technology, many of you in the audience will have been working on systems of record. Can I just pause for the moment and say, how many of you actually use an SAP system, for example? Some of you do. How many of you use Oracle? Yep. And how many of you use Salesforce? Right, yeah. So basically, you've got many systems of record. So and if you look at the blue lines on the chart here, that is what we have all spent our time connecting up those processes and putting in all of those systems of record. They're all coded and they're all important, and they are what we call core systems of record. If you then look at the line on the right, which is that pink colored line, that is now showing the next level of productivity, because the challenge we've got is the level of productivity we're getting out of our ERP systems is no longer there anymore. It's costing us a lot of money and everything is taking too long, and we've lost the productivity curve. Now, if you look at the beginning of that pink line on the right-hand side, you're seeing RPAs, because people come up to me and say, "Oh, is this like an RPA?" No. RPAs are robots, robotic process automation, and if you scan at the end of today, you'll see a white paper that we've written, which is the difference between agentic AI, which is learning and dynamic and not static, and RPA, which is a robot which wakes up every morning and does, "I'm a robot, I'm hard-coded, I do these 3 things on a daily basis." It doesn't mean that robots aren't good, but they take a long time. We're replacing, for example, RPAs like Pega, for example, in insurance companies, because they take 2 years to implement, whereas you can implement an agentic process, for example, in as little as half a day to 2 days. It is a completely different paradigm shift. So if you look at agentic AI, and you step back one on that chart, you'll see LLMs. Large language models are amazing, but large language models can't execute processes. They're really good at helping you derive an intent, helping you understand what you need to do. They can read documents, but they can't execute a process. And even if you RAG train an LLM really, really well, you get to a maximum of about 80% reliability, because it's a probabilistic model. It's probably going to be right. But when you're working now in business and in regulated industries, you can't be mostly right. You have to be always right all the time. So when I left SAP, we built what we call these agentic process domain models, which when you bring them together with LLMs, the agentic process domain models, and I'll show you an example of one in this talk, give you the ability now to control the process. The AI system operates under the guardrails of the prompts that you give it in the way that you want it to work, and it has a thing called conditions, and the conditions are what the AI is allowed to do and not allowed to do. So they are your most obedient agentic co-workers. And these co-workers, you can manage them by putting them under all of your security so that they are only allowed to do the things that you're allowing them to do. And so this is now why you can massively improve the productivity. And so if you think about the foundation models, as I mentioned before, large language models on their own can't execute processes. But if you look at the agentic models, they can execute these processes perfectly every single time. And if you think about all of you, and I've spoken to many of you that are in this audience at the stand, if you look at what you're doing in the generative AI space, all of the work that you've been doing today around agentic AI training and all of that, you're able to now turn these into executable processes. So we're moving from an era of generative AI into a world of agentic AI. And agentic AI is what we call purposeful AI. It means that we are not just working with large language models, we're working with large action models. These are models that are executing work to enable you to create an outcome. And what we've done is we've perfected this now, where you can do this at scale. You can do this on any process, on any system of record, compliantly, every single time. McKinsey actually, I think, has written a really good paper, so if you want to go and just Google the term agentic AI, do some reading on this. These systems can operate both with humans in the loop, and they also can operate autonomously. They have an ability to be able to orchestrate data and processes from any system of record, and they can even orchestrate your bots. They can work inside your enterprise, and they can also work outside your enterprise as well. So they're transformational. Let me show you an example now of example of trade finance and banking. This is a very, very complex process. So in this example here, we are reading an invoice out of an SAP system. And we're dropping this into MyWave. And what we're doing is we're telling it, and I'm telling the agentic AI system, I want you to generate a letter of credit out of this. Just typing it in, that's all we have to do. So now the agentic AI system is based on a model, and I'll show you the model in a minute, is telling you now what's missing. So I need to put the bank's name in there. It's generating now what it needs to generate in terms of reference number, and has now summarized all of the information out of an invoice and has now turned this into your banking process to be able to go get a letter of credit to associate with what you're getting out to be able to ship product around overseas. It also is able to help you train your large language models, because it's also recognized that there's actually an error in what the LLM read, because the company name was not correct. So you're able to then come in and correct that company name and be able to put that in appropriately. So now you are now doing the credit check, you're getting all of the information that has now been correctly done with regards to that system. It's also able to generate documents. So you can get your AI agents to generate things like your SWIFT documents, your advice. So if you were in a banking or an insurance example, you would be able to not only do the work, but also produce all the necessary documentation in a digital form to be able to send that through to the appropriate people. So these are the types of things that you can do. And this is with a partner of ours, Tessellate out of Europe, who's doing this now every day for banks. So banking processes are heavily regulated. And, and this is working in with a back-end example here on a Finastra banking system, core banking systems here. We can also orchestrate bots and things like that. So you can now see everything that you have available then within the banking system. This is now the process domain model that sits behind it. If you think about all of the world systems that we've had to do before, to make sure this is actually clicked, yeah, there we go. You have all of these prompt-based models. So your users, you know your business. All you have to do is you are no longer cutting code. You are now creating a model. The model is based on prompts. The prompts are what data needs to be true, what process steps do you have. The AI is not executing this in any particular step. It actually, its algorithms is able to work out in what order it needs to do, and it's continuously optimizing itself. But it also has a thing called, if you'll see the pink and the blue examples there, these are the conditions, the compliance of what needs to be true and conditions precedent to being able to do that process. Very important if you've got a regulated industry and you are now wanting to make sure you've always got a compliant banking process, or you've always got a compliant insurance process, or any type of process. So the conditions are the guardrails that regulate the algorithms as to what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do in that process. So the AI agent can never ski off piste and go and do something that it's not allowed to do. And your LLMs are always made accurate. So this is very safe, very good in data governance, and very secure. And those are very important and very transparent. You can actually tell a regulator how you're running your business because you can actually show them exactly what you're doing. We're also applying this in terms of business process outsourcing. Think about all of the SI partners out there and the partner economics. SI partners are actually also signing up daily to use these because agentic models, they can rinse and repeat them. They're repeatable, they can reuse them multiple times across industries. So whether you are an AI client and you're doing your own agentic models or you're a partner, you're able to now create these models yourself and you're able to reuse and repeat them. And it's a 75% faster and an 85% lower cost to create agentic waves than it is over traditional methods. So it's revolutionary in terms of your economics of how you're able to now run processes inside your organizations and with also your customers. This just gives you a little bit of an example of your ability now to be able to think about the architecture. So you are creating these agentic waves on your innovation hub. You have your own private account. Everything is personal to you. No data goes anywhere. That's your account. And then you can deploy them as agentic waves, and you will see examples there in the middle: sales order to purchase order, letters of credit, any type of wave that you want to do. And you're able to deploy these rapidly as agentic AI co-workers. It takes about half an hour to do a simple process once you're trained. It takes 4 hours to train you, by the way. And it can take you about a day to create a sort of a standard agentic wave. If you look at the bottom part of that diagram in the middle here, I'll just reach around in this area here. This area here runs on any system of record, which means now you can orchestrate data. So think about the world where you used to create integrations between systems. You're no longer creating integrations between systems. They're just point to point. The agentic AI system is dynamically orchestrating data in context across any of those systems of record. And so what that means is that you can now create these agentic waves and have them now operating, and MyWave is orchestrating that data. Now what's interesting is we have a thing called a dynamic plugin. It's very easy for you to just literally drag your APIs to the agentic wave, create your dynamic plugin, and you're able to execute and deploy. And then of course on the right hand side, because we've created SDKs, you can securely drop these AI agents working on behalf of your end consumer. You can have them working on behalf of your business-to-business customer, because you can drop them in any channel. And then the customer can dynamically interact in two-way interaction around the work that they're doing. These are some examples of different waves that we have, and I'm just going to show you some examples here. This is the credit control approval wave as another example. This is an example of NTT, one of our partners in the UK that's been working with customers. And you'll see this is a lovely SAP system. And you can say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. But this is the old world. This is the way that people have been spending their lives. This takes 3 minutes and 13 seconds to be able to actually get through that. This is for customer onboarding. I'm going to do customer onboarding. I'm going to now go into the British government's website to check and verify that this company actually exists. I'm then going to do a credit control check. Think about all the times your employees have multiple screens open. Think about the error rates where you are actually then having to basically key and rekey information from multiple systems. All of this is eliminated when you're using agentic models from MyWave, because we're intelligently orchestrating data across all of these automatically. And you're now updating these manually, and unfortunately I can't fast forward because the Gartner computer doesn't let me fast forward, so I'll just let you see this. It's now going to do its credit check, and I think that we're already bored, but this is the reality of how we spend our lives. If you think about in the next decade, 80% of the workforce is going to retire, and we think of young people, the next generation of millennials and Gen Z and others coming through, they are not going to want to use these systems. It is a waste of time. Everything by 2027, 2028, this type of technology will be where you type into an interface and work is done. But you can only do it reliably if you have agentic models. You can't just do this with an LLM. You have to have agentic models. So now this is now the after. We're using MyWave with agentic AI. You're typing into the interface here that I want to create now this record, and I'm just keyed in the VAT number. That's all I needed to do. MyWave is automatically now going and checking now all of those external websites, bringing me back the information. Now I don't even actually have to make every single step here. If I was in Europe, they want to see all the steps. When I'm in America, they go, I trust the AI system. I don't need to see all of that. You can set up the models to show me what you're doing because I don't trust you yet. But once you trust your buddy, your AI coworker, why would you want to see all these steps? And so now that system of record has been updated. So that was 1 minute and 16 seconds. It's a time saving of 60%. So think about this. Every time you're now bringing up these new AI agents working alongside your people, this is like having 60% of your time back in your day on that process. And why wouldn't you want to do that? So it's like having 0.6 of an FTE being hired to replace the work that's being done there before. If we just look at this one here, this is creating a visit report. You can talk into the technology as well. This is dynamically interacting now with a back-end system, and I've been out to see the client, I can check stock, I'm now updating what actually happened. They've got some invoices that they haven't paid. So basically, if you don't have a CRM system, you can actually update the systems of record, and you don't actually have to put a CRM system in. If you do have a CRM system, this is a far better way of being able to actually interact with your CRM system. And so this is now enabling you to do your sales. The next example here is manufacturing. Think about all of the people in the plant maintenance area, your engineers, most of them hate using systems. Now, there's a problem with my machine. I can type into the machine here, maintenance is needed for the machine, and it's making a clunking and hissing noise. So you're actually just typing into the interface. MyWave knows what to do with that. It's going to come back and ask you, where is the machine, and is the machine actually down, or is it just making a noise? It only asks you those two things, and it's now going to be updating now. In this instance, this is an SAP plant maintenance system, and this is now giving you the ability now to do that in 2 seconds. We are able to do these asynchronously. If you want to do offline maintenance in the bottom of a mine, you're able to do that as well, because it basically doesn't need to be online, it can be online or offline. And so if we think about all of the benefits that you're getting this basically between average of 70% improvement of your employee productivity. For your IT departments, you're actually able to deploy these agentic processes now 75% faster, 85% lower cost than traditional methods. So suddenly you are actually unleashing the productivity on all these ERP systems that are costing you millions and millions of dollars every year to run. And now your innovation has been unleashed. It runs even on-prem, it runs in the cloud. You can run it on ECC, S4, any system, Salesforce, Oracle, any type of system of record, does not matter. Even if we've got a client with a 40-year-old COBOL system, it doesn't have an API, but it actually has basically a robot. So we've trained a bot to simulate humans, and we feed information to it. So even if you've got something that doesn't have an API, it doesn't matter. It can still work. So basically, my conclusion, and I've got 1 minute left, and I'm happy to take some questions, is where do I start? If you click the QR code, come by and see us at the stand. You can either become a partner, so you sign up and we train you. We're delighted to work directly with customers, or we work with customers through partners. We have a couple of different models, but we'd love to talk to you. And this is probably the most exciting thing, as I said, 9 years in the making. It is not easy to build these models. Anybody out there that says, I've got an RPA with an LLM on it, or I've got a chatbot framework with an LLM on it, look underneath the claims of agentic. I wrote a paper, follow me on LinkedIn, Geraldine McBride, because RPA frameworks and chatbot frameworks are not agentic AI. You have to have process domain models working with these, and this is now how you speed things up and you really unleash productivity. 9 years in the making. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, let me know afterwards. Thank you.